Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. Today we're going to talk about Monday Night Raw on this MLK Day, January the 15th, 2023. We're going to do a little bit of politics here, not a lot, a little bit. And we have to because Kane was mentioned with Donald Trump, and there has been a lot of unfolding when it comes to Martin Luther King at MLK Day. And, because WWE, they do MLK Day every year. Vince McMahon says that Martin Luther King is his hero. And I guess this year, among people have decided they were going to criticize Martin Luther King a lot. And so I just want to put my thoughts out there just in case anybody gives a damn before we start talking about Kane and Donald Trump. And then we're going to get into Hulk Hogan saving a young Hulkamaniac's life. So what happens with Martin Luther King? There's a lot of people who are on the right-wing politics, the conservatives. They have decided that they were going to attack Martin Luther King today, mainly out of vengeance for Columbus Day and President's Day. And whenever these guys are attacked, they say, well, if we can criticize the presidents on President's Day, or we can criticize Columbus on Columbus Day, we can criticize Martin Luther King on Martin Luther King Day. And I absolutely agree with them. I don't have a problem with people criticizing Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King was criticized in his day by people like Malcolm X and Stokely Carmichael and the Black Panthers. I don't have a problem with Martin Luther King. I really don't. I understand that him dying is what elevated him to martyrdom, and that if he had lived, who knows what would have happened? Who knows how divisive he may have turned into, which, a lot of the progressives, when they come to Martin Luther King, that's what they say is that, okay, well, after the Civil Rights Act, it was going into economics, and he was a Marxist in terms of economics and stuff like this. And I get it, but we didn't get there. He said some comments, he had some comments about it, but we didn't get there. All right. So ultimately, it's impossible to say what he would have done because none of us knew him. Almost nobody listening to this was around when he was alive. So I don't think it's fair to put words in his mouth or put ideas in his head that he probably did not believe. That being said, there is a lot of folks who believe that he was a communist. I do not believe Martin Luther King was a communist. I do believe that he was probably being used by communists. And I do believe that there were people around him who were communists. But that was just the nature of the civil rights movement in general. We have to have a longer form conversation about the civil rights movement and communism and how people infiltrated the civil rights movement. Feds and communists, they pretty much infiltrate everything. So it's not that much of a big issue to say that a lot of people in the civil rights movement at the time were communists. And quite a few of the people who were communists were the ones who were criticizing Martin Luther King. I mentioned a few. The Black Panther Party, they were communists. And so was Stokely Carmichael. He's a communist. Malcolm X was also criticized Martin Luther King, but he was not a communist as far as I know, because he believed in private property and that you should use a gun to defend your private property. So that is the antithesis of communism. Even if he didn't come out and write about how he's anti-communist, the very idea that you believe in private property is anti-communist. So Martin Luther King being criticized online is a very interesting thing. A lot of it is vindictive. A lot of the stories that have been said about him being an abuser, a plagiarist, not a lot of that stuff can be independently verified. You have to realize that when it comes to historical figures, there's always people who want to tear them down. Just like there's people who do myth making, tell stories that build people up. There's always stories to tear people down. And I don't take a lot of it that seriously when it comes to any historical figure, because you have to take the bitter with the sweet. People are whole human beings. You say things, you do things that you don't mean at one point in time. And, I think Ultimate Warrior, which is, hilarious, says that, moments lived become a part of that man's history or something like that. And you can't go back on that. So, but people should recognize that it's not racist to criticize Martin Luther King. Hell, the first person that tried to kill him was a black woman. She stabbed him with a knife in the chest somewhere in New York or something like that. So this is not it's become a surprise that a lot of people are like, oh my God, you want to repeal the Civil Rights Act and you want to attack Martin Luther King. It's like, Yeah, but this was the nature of our politics in general in the United States. So when somebody comes up and like, the Jinder Mahal promo where he says like you've never been more divided, it's like, yeah, we're kind of at that point now where people are becoming more and more divided. And that bleeds into the Kane topic, where Kane did a speech for Donald Trump. This led to a lot of people uh, throwing a fit online. But Kane is a Republican, and he's been a Republican the entire time he's been mayor of Knox County, Tennessee. And of course, he endorsed Donald Trump. This led to so many people being so upset. It's not really worth doing like a smart tears over or anything like that, because it's the same thing every time he tweets out an opinion. It's about how he's a stupid wrestler who got CTE. He's an idiot. He's a big red retard. He's a moron. Yada yada yada. Just a lot of ad hominems and not a lot of intelligent conversation about what he believes, and how to fix the problems that he presents. Now, in supporting Donald Trump, he mentioned that the pullout of the withdrawal from Afghanistan, and that one of the young men who died in that withdrawal was from Knox County, Tennessee, and how difficult it was for him as a local official to have to deal with that. And I looked it up, and it's true. One of the young men who died in the withdrawal to Afghanistan was from, I think it's called Corryton, Tennessee, which is in Knox County. So he would have been one of Kane's constituents. So for him, it's kind of a personal thing where he blamed Biden for that. He also thinks that Trump would have been better on the border. It would be better in handling Middle Eastern affairs, and things like Ukraine wouldn't have happened if Trump was in office. There's a lot of stuff that he says that he believes, and folks have to understand that people think differently than they have. I mean, this whole channel is about, hey, people think differently than you. And, this channel was started because I think differently than everybody else who does what I do. And I say, well, let me try my hand and put my voice out there and see if people will give a shit. And thankfully, about 5,000 of you do. And I appreciate that. And I don't mean to disrespect anybody. You're perfectly capable of disagreeing with me, and I won't not block you or say anything negative about you. We can debate an issue if that's what you want to do. That's the beauty of this thing. But other people who can't handle disagreements, I feel bad for you, because how do you go through life, blocking and acting a fool because people disagree with you? I just don't get it, regardless of what the issue is. Now, when it comes to that, another divisive person has been Hulk Hogan. For years, people have hated Hulk Hogan. They still hate him, to be quite honest, but they see that Hulk Hogan has saved a young lady. I'm not going to read the story because it was kind of short and I actually can remember it. Apparently, the young lady was driving recklessly and then her car flipped over. Hulk Hogan and his friend, Rick the Marine, jumped to the rescue. They ended up puncturing her airbag and pulling her from the vehicle. There's pictures. So this is not one of those crazy Hulk Hogan tall tales. This is legit. You see Hulk Hogan standing outside the tipped over vehicle. He talked about it on Twitter. And I was like, of course, everybody is being very humorous about it. But it seems like for the first time in a long time, people are rallying around Hulk Hogan, as, and I think it began a couple of weeks ago when he got baptized. Because some people say, well, he got baptized, he should be absolved of his sins. Yada, yada. I know some people don't believe that, but that's just kind of how certain Christians believe it. And he's given the opportunity to help a young lady. Of course, she's underage, so we don't know if she was, drunk or anything like that. We have no idea. But the Hulkster coming to the rescue of a young Hulkamaniac, the power of Hulkamania, helping him pull this young lady from the vehicle. I think this is becoming a bit of a redemption story for the Hulkster. I think if he'd have came out today, fewer people would have booed him and hated him, because now we see that, underneath all the bluster and the character stuff, it really is a good guy. And maybe it's just been revealed within the last couple of years, but a lot of people really take what wrestlers do to heart and say to heart. And I get it. Wrestling fans are probably the most loyal fans in the world. And they follow these guys, they follow their careers from the beginning to the end. They read books about them, they write documentaries about them, and all this kind of stuff. So I understand. But for me, I never took what Hulk Hogan said personally. Again, got to take the bitter with the sweet. Same thing with Kane, same thing with Martin Luther King. These are human beings. They're not always going to be what you want them to be. You know, it's all about, are they the worst possible people in the world? No. If you think that, you know, Kane's political ideas don't work, or you think that they're mean spirited or whatever, I mean, that's your opinion. You hate Hulk Hogan because of what he said about, he said the N word about his daughter's boyfriend, then, you know, you can hold that grudge if you want. If you hate Martin Luther King because you feel like he abused his wife and he was an adulterer and a plagiarist, I can't tell you what to do. All I can say is human beings are complex creatures. We're the only. I've been reading various manga, and I was reading Parasite, and it really brought it to my attention that human beings are the only creatures that commit suicide. We're the only creatures that cry. You know, I think that other animals, they may have tear ducts, but they don't openly weep like human beings do. We're the only creatures that commit suicide. We're the only ones that cry. We are complex creatures as human beings. And I think that these three earlier stories that we're going to talk about here before we get into the kayfabe wrestling world is all about understanding that human beings are complex and they're not always going to be the hero or the savior or the best character that you want them to be. All these people who hated Hulk Hogan, what do you think now? That he saved somebody's life. He helped save somebody's life. Not, you know, he didn't just rip the handles off the door, brother, and do it all himself, but he was there and he helped. You know, when shit hit the fan, Hulk Hogan was there and he did the best that he could, which is more than most people could say, because in a lot of situations, if a car is turned over and somebody's about to die, they may break out their phone and call the cops, but they're not going to get out of their car and try to help them. You know, Hogan being a good Samaritan makes him a little bit better in my book. You know, I have always remained that Hulk Hogan was done wrong in the whole N-word scandal anyway, considering he was recorded without his permission, having a candid conversation. No, he should not have been having sex with his friend's wife, but whatever. And this whole thing has not really changed my perspective on Hulk Hogan, except for I'm wondering if it changes the perspective other people have of him. But we won't know that, at least not right now. Let's get into Monday Night Raw. Enough of the somberness. This Raw sucked, by the way. It was very boring. Cody Rhodes, he came out there. Before he really got started, Drew McIntyre interrupted him. They talked about being tag team champions, that they both embraced their opportunity. They didn't embrace their opportunities at the time. They both had to leave WWE, rebuild themselves, come back. And then they're both now the blueprint of existing outside of the WWE. And then he says that if Cody keeps doing what he's doing, he will finish his story. But he can't finish his story before Drew McIntyre finishes his story. They get into a little bit of a back and forth where Drew is saying that this is not the real Cody, all this smiling that he's doing. He doesn't have to do that. You know, he can be real. He's not running for office. Cody says that this isn't an act. He does this because he genuinely loves what he does and he makes the most of his opportunities. And he relishes his second chance, while Drew McIntyre does nothing but complain. So while the tension started to build, Drew wants to know about Jey Uso. He wants to know about CM Punk. What is Cody thinking about these issues? What is he doing? And then Cody says that if you live with your grievances and you want me to live with mine, he says you want that for me, but I don't want to do that. You know, I'm going to win the Royal Rumble and I'm going to finish the story. And then Drew McIntyre had talked about earlier in the promo about them having met on the Indies. And Cody says, who won that match? So they're kind of teasing that they're gonna run this one back. And to me, it feels like they're really trying to do a lot with Drew McIntyre, and I really like it. The Drew McIntyre, he's been very interesting the last couple of weeks. Again, I said it's the Bret Hart story from 1997, where he's justified in all of his grievances. It's just that people are tired of hearing it. And it's only so long you could complain, especially when other people have suffered the same situation. There's only so long you can complain before people get tired of hearing it. And that's exactly what happened here, is that there was nothing that happened to Drew McIntyre that didn't also happen to Cody. You know, the bloodline got in the way and screwed over Drew. The bloodline got in the way and screwed over Cody. But Cody is not going to harp on it. He's got to pick himself up, clean himself off, and get back in the swing of things, get back in the spot. And I appreciate that. You know, I like that element, that grit of that character. And I like that we put Drew McIntyre as the opposite of him, and Drew carried it very well. I think this was a really good segment. I hope they don't have that match like on a throwaway Monday Night Raw, because that would suck. And you know, why continue to waste big time Drew McIntyre matches on Raw? You know, save some of this stuff for pay-per-views, save some of it for when it matters. But they're doing a really good job with the Royal Rumble, because this really adds a lot to the Rumble match with all the different angles and all the different guys that are involved. All right, so we get into the Judgment Day stuff. I'm going to do all the Judgment Day stuff at once. R-Truth and Damian Priest. Damian Priest is kind of upset that R-Truth is selling Judgment Day merchandise, and then R-Truth gives him a giant wad of cash. Damian Priest finds out this is his cut from the merchandise sales, and he's got a cut for everybody. So Damian Priest is like, all right, look, you can just keep selling the merchandise, but you can't tag in the match tonight. You know, if you're a member of the Judgment Day, you got to help us win, because The Miz is teaming with R-Truth against Damian Priest and Finn Balor. They kind of agree with that. Later on, after DIY defeat Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough in a match that was entirely too long, and I didn't understand why it was so long. It was ridiculous how long this match was. Later, Finn Balor and the rest of them find out that Truth has got wads of money for everybody, and they are upset about the T-shirts initially, until they find out about the wads of cash, and then they're like, okay, well, I guess as long as we get money out of this thing, I don't really care. JD McDonough is kind of upset. He wants to kill R-Truth. Damian Priest is like, look, you need to focus up because you keep losing. But then he also says, like, we should be doing something about Drew McIntyre. You know, him running around here, running his mouth, blaming me for not winning the world title. We need to focus up and do that. Meanwhile, Rhea Ripley is going off to have her promo battle with Becky Lynch, which we'll talk about in a moment. Then we get to R-Truth and The Miz losing to Damian and Finn Balor. And they did a great visual gag here, where the Truth was in the Judgment Day graphic, the AR graphic. He was in it. He was like off to the side with his new little live, laugh, love logo. That was a great visual gag. Now, that's the one positive thing I will say about the Triple H era. They do visual gags much better. Without blowing them out of proportion and shoving them in your face. Just having R-Truth in the Judgment Day thing is pretty funny. And he also slipped in behind them on their entrance. The match was what it was. R-Truth started the match. He was told not to tag in, but he wasn't told not to start the match. So he tried to start the match, and he ends up dropping all of this play money. It was obviously fake money, but he just dropped all of this money, and it's all over the ring. And he starts scooping up the money and putting it in Finn's pockets, saying that was his cut. And then he scooped up some more money and gave it to Dominic. And then JD McDonough wanted a cut, and Truth told JD McDonough he was not in Judgment Day, which is, of course, humorous, because why would R-Truth of all people remember that JD McDonough lost that match? R-Truth as a character, they kind of tweaked it a little bit. He's still an idiot, but he's slightly smarter than he used to be. I think R-Truth as a character would have forgotten that JD McDonough is not in Judgment Day a while back. But this version of R-Truth remembers that JD McDonough lost to him, and he is not a member of Judgment Day. Therefore, he is not going to give JD McDonough any money. They have the match. Finn Balor ends up pinning R-Truth after Damian Priest attacked R-Truth and hit him with the South of Heaven choke slam. They didn't do a good job of really milking that moment of Damian Priest taking out R-Truth, but it was pretty clear that they wanted to show that he was conflicted in a way about doing so. So I did like that. In a non-kayfabe interview, R-Truth said that it was Damian Priest's idea to bring him into the Judgment Day storyline. And as much as I understand it, it's a ripoff of the Bloodline Sami Zayn issue. This has been fun. R-Truth has been fun. Him having to wire the cash for all the guys to survive another week in Judgment Day is great. You know, they have every reason to kick your shit in for selling merchandise, bootlegging merch of them. But since he made all this money and he's paying them, they're willing to accept it. They're like, okay, well, whatever. You know, that's very believable. It's very believable that as long as you get a cut, why do you care? You know, if this guy wants to call himself a member of Judgment Day or not, it doesn't mean anything. So I thought the R-Truth stuff was fun. I didn't really care for the matches at all. JD McDonough is such a job guy. Whatever. He's really dragging down Dominic now, too. That sucks. DIY, I don't know. I don't think they'll ever get over, but I'm just a guy watching the show. I'm not booking it. The Miz, he's kind of stuck in a holding pattern right now, doing the reforming of Awesome Truth. I don't even understand why they're doing that. All right, so Rhea Ripley, she left Judgment Day because she wanted to address her division as they were playing video packages of Nia Jax, and Nia Jax talking about winning the Royal Rumble and all this kind of stuff. So as Rhea Ripley comes out and says she forgets her lines, first of all, and she forgot them seemingly twice, but she picked herself up and she powered through it. Basically, she said that if the winner of the Royal Rumble wants to waste the WrestleMania title shot, they should challenge her. Then Becky Lynch comes out. Becky Lynch talks about how her and Rhea are so similar. They both come from foreign countries. They both want to be the best. They both won the Royal Rumble, ended up being faces of the industry, and it says only one of us was the main event. You know, this says only one of us has the strength of a bear. The other one has the heart of a lion. We're the best to ever do it. And then she kind of circles Rhea Ripley a little bit, and she says that Rhea might be better than she is. You know, that was an interesting line. It didn't get the reaction that I would have thought it did. But she says, I think you might be better than me. But I want to prove that you're not. And I need to win the Royal Rumble. And I need to win that championship to prove that you're not better than me. So Rhea Ripley says, look, nobody wants you to win the Royal Rumble more than me. And then says that it will be Mommy versus the Man at WrestleMania. And she wants to see Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. I thought this was a very good segment. This was very good. I am kind of tired of the whole "you and I are a lot alike" promos. They just did this earlier with Drew McIntyre and Cody. You and me, we got a lot in common. You and me, we got a lot in common. It's like, yeah, a lot of wrestlers have a lot of things in common. I get it. You want to try to create a connection between the two people talking and then build the issue, the tension when you individualize them out of the similarities. But doing it a lot lately. They're doing it a lot lately. The CM Punk Drew McIntyre promo was the exact same thing where, you know, you and me are a lot alike. You know, yeah, we are a lot alike. You know, it's like, okay, we get it. You know, everybody can't cut this promo that you and me are a lot alike. We have a lot in common. Everybody can't do this. All right. So that's my one criticism of this promo. But basically telling us it's going to be Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley at the WrestleMania is great. Because this is what we need. I love the idea of Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley. I think it's a big money women's match. It's not the main event, but it's certainly up there as a extremely important match for WrestleMania. And the hook of Becky Lynch feeling like she's the underdog against Rhea Ripley is interesting. You know, her believing that Rhea Ripley is the best and then saying, but no, I have to prove that I'm the best. It's kind of along the lines of what Becky has always done. But I absolutely think that the rest of the promo, from Becky Lynch's perspective, outside of the "where you and I are not alike," you know, it's been pretty good. Chelsea Green ended up complaining about the referees, and she wanted a tag team rematch. They ended up getting thrown in the match against Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae, to which Chelsea Green and Piper Niven lost. Let's just move on as quickly as possible. That's stupid. What a stupid promo that is. Gonta, he returned. He said he smells desperation in the air. He's been observing since he's been gone about a bunch of people saying they're going to win the Royal Rumble. Then he says that last year he almost won it from number one, and this year he will win the Royal Rumble. Then he said he wants to talk to Ludwig. They played a recording of Ludwig Kaiser kicking Kofi Kingston's head into the stairs, and Gunta says that that's what I wanted to see. you showed grit. You showed confidence. That's the side of you I always wanted to see. And he says, well done. And he actually gave him a hug. He gave him a hug. Big pop on the hug. Afterwards, Xavier Woods came out there. He wanted to fight Ludwig Kaiser because of what he did to Kofi. They have the match. It felt like it was going on forever before Xavier Woods got disqualified. He attacked Ludwig Kaiser with the office chair. Then he attacked him with some more stuff. After the match, they had a little bit of a brawl before Ludwig Kaiser decided to flee. And then Kaiser attacked him backstage while he was cutting a promo. And Jey Uso ended up scaring Ludwig Kaiser off. So that we're now starting to inject Jey Uso into Imperium's business, which tells us that, yeah, Jey Uso is probably about to become the Intercontinental Champion. Very, very interesting stuff. I didn't hate it. I didn't really care about Xavier Woods and Ludwig Kaiser. I think Xavier Woods is also ran. He's been doing the same thing for far too long for me to get excited to see him. You would think that after, I think it's been a decade at least that they've been doing New Day, that they would revamp that thing, that they would kill New Day off and do something else with it. But no, they're still doing it. Bronson Reed cut a promo saying that there's a man holding a championship in WWE who doesn't know that it will soon be owned by Bronson Reed. I'm guessing that's the Intercontinental Championship. I have no interest in that. Sorry, Bronson Reed. Thick boy. Ivar was defeated by Akira Tozawa. This match made me want to throw my TV. I told you last week, Ivar is dead in the water. He's going to win one, lose one, win one, lose one. He lost to Akira Tozawa. It's ridiculous. Afterwards, Valhalla blamed Maxine and beat her up. Then Ivar did the moonsaults on Akira Tozawa. Later, Ivy Nile says she wanted to have a match with Valhalla for what she did to Maxine. And Gable says that Akira Tozawa is close to graduating from Alpha Academy and that Ivar is a coward. And he's going to show him what cowards get next week. Shinsuke Nakamura cut a promo saying he didn't get to inflict the damage on Cody that he wanted last week, and it made him angry, but it also made him hungry. And he says that he's going to win the Royal Rumble. He's going to feast on 29 other men. Interesting. And pause, by the way. All right, so we get into the main event. Jinder Mahal versus Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins said he'd get stronger after every title defense. This is not the same Jinder Mahal he defeated in NXT. This is a better version of Jinder Mahal. This guy's a former world champion. He is more than deserving, which is their only shot at Tony Khan throughout this entire episode. Jinder Mahal then says that he had absolute clarity. He's the most talked about wrestler of 2024. This whole thing is 12 years in the making, and everybody's going to be unified when he wins the World Heavyweight Championship. They have the match. Jinder Mahal is defeated by Seth Rollins, of course. Jinder Mahal comes out with induced share, and Damian Priest came to ringside to watch the match. As Damian Priest looks like he's going to cash in the Money in the Bank, Drew McIntyre appears out of nowhere, and they fight. And there was some interesting near falls here. For instance, I believe, I forget which guy from induced share hit Seth Rollins in the head with the briefcase, and then Jinder Mahal nailed the Colossus and only got a 2 count, which I was like, okay, so Seth Rollins is clearly bulletproof. Well, we already knew that, right? And of course, Seth Rollins wins the match with 1 stomp, and then they immediately go off the air before Seth Rollins could even celebrate. So all the hype about Jinder Mahal was for no good reason. We knew he wasn't going to win. I don't know why anybody thought Jinder Mahal was going to win. I mean, if you're even mildly intelligent, you would have known that Jinder Mahal is not going to defeat Seth Rollins and walk into WrestleMania as the champion. I mean, are you kidding me? Do you people not pay attention to Triple H booking? That might have been something Vince was willing to do, even though I doubt it. But it was not likely at all in the Triple H era. So I was not disappointed in the least. But I do like the near fall of hitting him in the head with the briefcase, because that was legitimate. Most people walked into this match not believing that Jinder Mahal could win. and they gave you one hope spot if you were a hater of Seth Rollins that Jinder Mahal might win. So that was good. There was another match on this show, but nobody really cares about it because it was, pointless. For Christ's sake, it was like Tegan Knox and Natalya, who of course sucks, versus Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler. What a drab contest that was. They were aggressive at least, but the match sucked. Who really cares? The show was kind of light. It sucked. It wasn't really good. It was dry. The crowd was kind of dead. They explained it by, bad weather made a sparse crowd, and therefore the energy wasn't there as it would normally be. But I believe they were also like in the middle of the country, like Arkansas or Kansas or something like that. So I wasn't expecting too much anyway. But the middle of these shows, with the mid-card acts that they utilize, like DIY and JD McDonough and Candice and Indy and Shayna and all them, like all of these people are terrible. They're like super boring and they're not over. It's not not conducive to watching the entire show. They do have some hits. They do have some hits. The Drew McIntyre and Cody thing was good. The Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley thing was good. I enjoyed the R-Truth segments. I didn't really enjoy the match, but I enjoyed the segments and the antics. So it's a mixed bag as usual when it comes to Monday Night Raw, but I tend to lean a little bit more negative because nothing was awesome. Nothing was like over the top. You must see this. And that's one of the moments. That's one of the things that I think WWE is always missing. Wrestling is missing in general is must-see moments, things that you have to see. These are seeds that you want to follow if you care about the stories, but must-see moments aren't really all the way there. All right. Thank you guys for your time. Happy Martin Luther King Day, and I'll talk to you guys later.